Hello there, and a happy summer solstice to all in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, I wish you a happy winter solstice, but for us here, it's summer solstice. So that's what I'm going to be kind of talking about, or in connection with, as it's good to relate to where you are, and to have an embodied sense of your spirituality. And I wanted to talk about a sense of our God, the Horned One, and the sense in which he has both a bright and a dark aspect. These are really interesting themes, I think, and it's one which is of course connected to this time, as this is a time of a kind of a turning point in the year. We're reaching this plateau of light in terms of the length of days and the amount of sunlight we're getting. And after this, after a period of stability, it will slowly start to decline, and the nights will grow, and the weather will change. It will go first of all into the height of summer, where it's even hotter and even more lush, and then it will go on towards autumn and beyond. Now, the bright God can often be seen in many ways as a kind of benefactor of humanity, I mean, he presides over half of the year where the light is growing, the warmth is growing, life is getting easier in many ways, though there's a lot more work to do, which was to do traditionally, and so we think of this as being the growth of the growth of greenery, the birth of calves and what have you, the raising of livestock, all these kind of things, And we think of him, when we think of him as Lucifer, we think of him as a bestower upon humanity of freedoms and gifts, all manner of things, all manner of beautiful things and precious things. The capacity to think independently, and the capacity for the arising of individuality, and also for the arising of things like science, art, poetry. All of these things we think of as being his gifts in many ways, when we see him as Lucifer. The dark God is a somewhat different figure, and the dark God is a very interesting figure. He's always been my favourite face, and the face that I've always found the most attractive. And I feel the greatest bond with in many ways. And in him come different powers, and powers which are not so much about this collective benefit of humanity, but certainly can be for the individual a saving grace. And he has these qualities of darkness and decay, which are exactly the things that bring the fruitfulness that we require. He brings us these sorts of things, There's both a darker and a more fiery quality to him at the same time, and a deeply embodied sense of something also. And he grows from this time. From this time onwards, his power is growing for us as witches. That's how I see it. And this relationship between the two qualities, the two energies, and the two faces of our God, they're tremendously important. And of course, in many ways, in terms of what we understand of our lives, they are dependent upon each other, The gods themselves are a mystery, but in terms of his power and influence, we see him in many things. We see him in things which are also difficult to cope with, and in trials, and in crises, and in the things that take us beyond what we can cope with, into the areas where we have to be transformed. And so he has a quality of that to him as well. And without these things, we would stagnate. We would never grow. So I could kind of keep on rambling about this and about him in this way. But he is a tremendous face of the God, he really is. And even just calling him a face of the God is so inadequate. It's all like, I feel like saying, oh, no, that's just silly, but it's pretty difficult to know what you can say about him after a while. He's the very depth of the mystery itself. And I hope with all my heart that at the end of all things, he will be there. So have a very happy and joyous solstice wherever you are.